Destination Nightmare, the B-Movie Podcast.
You will each be tied in a prescribed fashion and cast into the moat.
Only from the pen of Edgar Allan Poe could come such an horrendous tale of terror. The Conqueror Worm, starring Vincent Price in the most diabolic role of his career.
Look for the devil's marks upon him. Get on with your task.
The distorted genius of Poe creates poetic beauty from pain and uses idyllic love as a tool of torture.
Men sometimes have strange motives for the things they do.
I know.
You've got an accusation to make. I'll get your confession for you. I'm husband to Sara Lowe's.
He's a man who's out to kill both of us.
And it appears to me that we should take steps to see to his death first.
Leave the children at home, and if you're squeamish, stay home with them.
I shall kill you.
Please, leave the children at home.
There's a lot about this movie. Did you see the Wikipedia about this thing? Man, it went on and on and on about this movie. Witchfinder General is the movie today. Conqueror Worm, as it was retitled for the U.S. or whatever. I actually enjoyed this movie, even though it's not an enjoyable movie. It was a good movie.
Yeah, it's pretty grim. It's a good.
It's historical, kind of. It really happened. I mean, not exactly like.
Yeah.
But there was a guy named Matthew Hopkins who, during the English Civil War, did go around and scam money out of towns by pretending to be a witch finder and torture people and, do all this crap or whatever. So.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
And apparently he only lived till he's 25 or 28 because he died of tuberculosis when he was young. So I guess he paid the price for being such a scumbag or whatever. This movie has a different ending.
Yes, more dramatic.
And originally, from what I read in Wikipedia, there was going to be an even different ending than this. So we'll get to it when we get to the end of the movie. So not to give any spoilers or whatever, but. If you look at Wikipedia, it talks about a different ending, a couple of different endings, and I think they either couldn't afford one, and then another one they had to tone it down, and another one, I don't know if they did a third ending, but one of them they changed because of it didn't make any sense because of the logistics of the ammunition. Let's put it that way.
Got it.
They couldn't, so they changed it to okay. We'll do this instead, but yeah, I was reading about it. The director hated Vincent Price's guts for some reason.
Really?
You should read this thing. This is amazing, this story. He hated him because originally the director was Michael Reeves. He was a young British director. He had done a few movies, The Sorcerers, The She-Beast. I think he worked on a couple of other movies. Well, this was based on the story of this Matthew Hopkins guy. It was a real guy, and his assistant, the other jerk, John Stearne, was another guy, and they went town to town pretending they were, witch finders, and then the townspeople, I guess, out of revenge or something, or for whatever reason, would rat out people, and then they would do all the, It's funny how Monty Python would spoof some of this stuff, but it really happened in the 1600s during the Civil War, and some of this witchcraft stuff had something to do with King James. And, there's a lot of, I read about it a bit, and it was very convoluted or whatever, but I guess it was like such a weird time that these guys like Hopkins took advantage of it, and it was a money-making enterprise. He would do this witch finding and torture women, men, mostly women, and then they would burn them or whatever he did to them, throw them in the water. Yeah. And then he would get money off of it, and I think he got rich off it too. Scumbag that he was.
Yeah, I think it was the Civil War. I think the king was in exile, and
King James was in exile. Yeah.
And what's his name? Cromwell was head of Parliament, and and everything was chaos. So there was less of a centralized order. Order, so it's, So
there was guys running around like, scamming, killing, taking advantage of it. Yeah, it's an interesting story. It's funny, I never saw this movie before, but I never did. I didn't know it was so historical. I thought it was going to be more of it didn't seem like much of a horror movie. It did and it didn't. It seemed more of like a true life story, but there was horror of what they were doing, and there was supernatural, supposedly, even though there's nothing supernatural. And I felt, and I won't give anything away by saying this, but the ending made me feel uncomfortable because I was cheering for something, and it really shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? It was like, wow, you're cheering that, but, anyway, so any of those who haven't seen the movie, watch it, and then...
I remember watching this when I was a kid.
You did, on TV, huh?
Yeah, it was on Creature Features. And the title, Conqueror Worm.
Conqueror Worm, yeah.
And Vincent Price. I'm all set up for some giant blood-sucking worm or some weird devil monster or whatever. And then, it's a guy running.
Historical.
Yeah, it was more historical, and the guy's running around, there wasn't even anything demonic or anything, because these people weren't really witches, they were just outed
for whatever reason.
Yeah, for jealousy or because they were different or whatever. And it was disappointing. Well, for a little like 8 or 9 year old me.
Of course it was. Yeah,
it's disappointing
because there wasn't any devils or monsters or.
No, I was expecting something more along the lines of Blood on Satan's Claw.
That one was more satanic.
That was more, because then you saw actual. We didn't see him clearly, but it was actually like a devil there, and the people were really, the witchcraft was really going on and stuff.
Yeah, because, they said that, like, some people would say, oh, these people have the mark of the devil, and it could have been a mole.
Yeah.
It could have been a blemish or something. There it is. And then, like, they would poke it, and, it was pretty, it seemed kind of tame, but maybe in 1969 it was more.
In 1969, that was really... I'm sure they even cut out some of the bloodier scenes.
Apparently they did. I was looking to see if I had a DVD, and I don't have it here. It might be in storage. I said, well, let me look and see how much the prices are for the uncut, and it was like $30. And I'm like, no, that's okay.
Wow.
This looks like it was edited. There was apparently, with that scene in the tavern where the soldiers were going to town, was there any nudity in that?
It's supposed to be.
But I don't remember seeing nudity.
I don't remember seeing any. But, yes, it's obviously cut for...
And violence, too. I think they cut some violence. Apparently, this movie went through the British board of, a couple of times, and they had to cut. It was going to be gorier. They were going to do, like, throwing people through the air, battles and stuff. And I think the studio and the censors said, no. So they toned it down a bit, So, of course, after this started, like, Blood on Satan's Claw. There was Mark of the Devil, the one where they famously gave you a barf bag.
Right.
Yeah. The one where that's the one where they see a woman's tongue get cut out or whatever, during the torture scene. So what he was intending to do was then done by others. But Mark of the Devil was a German movie, so I guess they didn't have much censorship there like the Brits or whatever. And Blood on Satan's Claw was a British movie, though, but, but that was a lot more satanic. That was a lot more evil. This is more of a human evil, like a bad characters or whatever, evil or whatever.
Sometimes those things are more disturbing because I mean, you're not likely to go run in the woods and see devils in hooded cloaks running around, but you are likely to see some really creepy people who are just mean-spirited and evil and don't, think hurting other people is fun.
Yeah.
So that's human monsters are to me more scary than.
Yeah, in a way they are. In a way they are. Yeah, and like I said, Price originally the director wanted Donald Pleasance to be Matthew Hopkins, and when AIP got involved, they said, "No, we'll give you more money, but we want Vincent Price."
Mm-hmm.
And the director had a different idea for the Witchfinder, and then when he got Price, apparently he didn't even come to greet him at the airport. He didn't. Wow. He wasn't nice to him, and if you read the Wikipedia, Price got mad and he said, "So where's your goddamn young great director at, or whatever?" And apparently Michael Reeves hated him. I mean, they said one of the anecdotes was that Price was on a horse and Reeves said, "Okay, I want you to shoot this blank gun," and Price goes, "Do you know what's going to happen to this horse if I shoot this?" And Reeves is like, "Just do it." And of course, Price shot the blank off, and the horse threw him off. Wow. And he fell to the ground. He didn't get hurt, but he fell to the ground, so he knew it was going to happen. So, like Michael Reeves seems like he might have been a little sadistic or whatever too. Yeah. And he died after. I mean, he died this movie was made in '68. He died a year later, a year and a half later, of barbiturate overdose. So he was kind of a troubled fellow or whatever.
Yeah, geez. But, well, maybe that's why he did this movie, because it kind of appealed to him.
Well, what was it? No, what happened was, from what I read, was the producer, Tony Tenser, who had a company called Tygon, read the book that came out in '66 about Hopkins, and he optioned it instantly. And then he saw that Reeves was an up-and-coming director, and he gave him the idea. And Reeves said, "Okay, I'll get together with my guy, and we'll write a script." And he gave him the script, and Tenser said, "Oh, this is great," and said, "Okay." And they started casting it, but then they had the problem with Price. I've never heard of, even Price said, I've never had any problems with any director before, but this guy was like, probably something wrong with him, probably like a little arrogant kind of trouble.
Well, a lot of times he's supposedly a young, like you said, a young up-and-coming.
He was 25.
Producer, which is pretty young. So maybe he just, was cocky and
wanted his way, and he wouldn't get it, and but he really took it out on Vincent Price. But then again, Price, there's also people say that the reason he was the way he was because he wanted Price to not be so campy and be more menacing. And you can see Price, and he does look like angry in the movie and menacing, and he's not like, making faces and camping it up. But then I read, again, more stuff that I read. It's like after Reeves died and Price was interviewed by somebody, he said, "Well, what he wanted was you to do this." And Price goes, "Well, why didn't he tell me up front?" Yeah. He didn't tell me. He just wanted to make me uncomfortable, so I acted like a jerk, and he wanted to hurt me, so like, I would be more menacing. I mean, I don't know. Again, I read more stuff, and it said that, the director wasn't good with actors either. He would just kind of like tell them, do it what you want, and then he would critique them. So he's a particular guy. I mean, I'm not surprised about what happened. He might have had issues or something like that. I don't know. But he made a great movie. He made another movie called The Sorcerers with Price, with Boris Karloff, and he made The She-Beast with Barbara Steele. The She-Beast is okay. The Sorcerers is interesting. I think this is the best one of the three. I think he did some television too. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not up on him, but I did enjoy this movie. I did enjoy the pacing. I watched it last night late, and I wasn't bored at all. I wasn't like going like, this is padding, this is this. No, every scene was pushing the movie forward or whatever,
He did Castle of the Living Dead.
He did. I think he did parts of it. Yeah, that's another one that I think we watched that on Slow Robot. I'm not sure, but that's almost like a dark comedy in a way, but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
The Sorcerers.
It's a shame he died young then.
Yeah, he OD'd. You know, it happened. It was 69. You know, there were people were, well, they still do it. What am I saying? You know. So anyway, the movie starts off with. Does it start off with him at the with the Cromwell? Or does it start off with the priest? No, he goes to visit. He goes to the town to visit the girl, right? That's how it starts off, or whatever.
It starts out with you see a priest and a bunch of people.
That's right. That's
right. Dragging the lady along, and then they put her up.
They deem her to be a witch or whatever.
Yeah,
and all the townspeople are like gathering, and they're all a procession or whatever. And
it's a little slow procession. They're dragging her by the neck, and then they hang her. And then you see some guy. You see Boris Karloff and his henchmen.
No, Boris Karloff, Vincent Price.
Vincent Price and his henchmen. He's sitting on horses watching the proceedings, and then the magistrate, hands him a bag of silver and says, "Oh, thank you for your services." And rides off, and then the movie starts.
Yeah, and it's Price, and he's got another guy. His name is John Stearne. That was his like muscle, sadistic muscle pal or whatever that tortured everybody. While Price just went and said, "Give them more, do the, whatever, put them in the comfy chair." I guess there was a lot of shit going around back then because there was also the Spanish Inquisition too, So there's a lot of.
Yeah, that was equally weird. I mean, it's always funny how like they're going to torture you to confess. Well, obviously, after a while, you're going to.
You'll be so delirious that you'll say anything,
Yeah, exactly. And then, or like throwing you in the water. If you float, you're a witch. If you sink, you're not a witch, but you're dead.
You're dead.
But,
So,
So after the credits roll, then you see the Roundheads. They're soldiers of Cromwell, and they're riding through the woods, and one of them gets shot by the king's men who are hiding in the woods, and then there's
skirmish.
They jump down, and the Roundheads go to get after the king's men, and the main guy, Ian Ogilvy, he's there and he's waiting, and he's like, I guess he's a new soldier, and he's hearing noises, and then suddenly the Roundheads come back, and they're talking, and one of the king's men is still alive, so he goes to kill the commander, and Ian Ogilvy shoots him dead. And so then, oh, very good, thank you, you'll make a good soldier.
Yeah, he said like, the guy, he goes like, well, I was a lucky shot, or something like that.
So then he rides home to visit his girlfriend, who's the niece of the priest.
And the priest has been telling her, look, when he comes in, I want you to marry him. There's trouble brewing, and I want you to marry him and get out of here or whatever. Now, was she his daughter, or was she said, there was a scene later on that she said something about, he's just found me when I was a young child and took care of me.
She was lying about that to try.
She was lying to Matthew Hopkins, okay.
Yeah, so, but that's his niece, the priest's niece. And so they're having dinner, and it's like, oh, I want you to marry her and take her away. And so then they go up. Ian Ogilvy and the girl go upstairs, and they have sex. And you see like writhing bodies and stuff. Then the next day he rides off, and he sees a bunch of villagers waiting, and says, "What are you waiting for?" And he says, "Well, we're waiting for a lawyer." And he goes, "Well, if I see him on the road, I'll point him in this direction." So then he rides further down, and he meets Vincent Price and Stearne. And he says, "Oh, are you the lawyer?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, they're waiting for you down in Brandonstone."
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So he goes, "Oh, good." So they get there, and he's like, "Oh, he meets the townspeople, and they take him to, of course, the church where the priest lives, and so they drag him out and they start torturing him, and And he's, like, I want him to confess. And then Vincent Price sees the girl, and she comes running to try and stop them, and he's saying, like, are you his daughter or a relative? She says, this is where she lies to Vincent Price. She goes, no, I'm a foundling. He and his wife found me, so, so he goes, because he was going to because she was related, he was going to accuse her of witchcraft, but because she was a foundling, she said,
she's not really related to him.
Yeah, she's not really related. So then, she offers her body if they would be kind to the priest and let him go. So, of course, Vincent Price sleeps with her. And they still torture the priest.
But they don't kill him. They just throw him in the dungeon.
So then Vincent Price rides off to some other town. And while he's away, Stearne, his henchman, rapes the girl. And, she's all upset and stuff. So when she comes back, one of the townsmen says, tells Vincent Price what happened. So then Vincent Price, feels the woman is beneath him, and then they start to torture the priest again. And they find him guilty with two other women, and then they bring him out, and then they do that thing where they throw them in the water. If you don't swim, you made an agreement with the devil. If you sink, you're innocent. So they pull the priest and another woman out and says, well, they swam, so they're guilty. And so
they hang them.
Yeah, and the one girl who died, she drowned, and they said, she's innocent. So then they hang them.
Yeah.
And then they get paid off by the town magistrate and ride off.
Right. So then at some point, Ogilvy is back with the Roundheads or whatever, and then the Stearne goes into was that when he goes into the bar and starts carousing or whatever with the locals or something like that, and then they get divided. Price gets divided from.
Price is off somewhere. Stearne's in the drinking.
And then Ogilvy shows up.
Yeah, he hears that in Bradenstoke or Stun or whatever. They're hanging witches and stuff. So then, because they heard that the king is around somewhere. So they're looking, and it says,
right. And Ogilvy's his commander told him, hey, don't get lost again because I'm going to give you a break this time, but next time I'll have to hang you, and I don't want to hang somebody that saved my life or something like that.
Yeah. So they're looking for the king, and apparently the king fled to France, I think it was.
Right.
So the guy who is telling him about the king, he also says, if you want some action, go to Bradenville or whatever. And, because they're hanging witches, and they hung the priest there, and he goes, what? So he goes riding off, and he comes to the castle, and the girl's there, she's in, and she like runs from him because she's all ashamed of what happened.
And the background said like witch or something on the. Yeah, somebody wrote witch on the.
Yeah, in the church, there's the word witch was carved and such, and so she's all upset and thinks he doesn't want her, so he takes her and kisses her, and then they have he takes his sword out and he lays it before the giant cross on the wall, and he basically makes up his own marriage ceremony. So he marries her, and then he swears vengeance. He's going to kill Hopkins and Stearne.
That's it. Yeah.
And so he then sends her to another town.
And then that's when Hopkins and Stearne become separated.
Yeah. He goes off. I forget where he goes.
he goes to another town, and then Stearne Stearne goes in another opposite direction. But
what happens? They're riding along, and
they saw the Cromwell people, right?
Yeah, they're looking for horses. They're looking to commandeer horses. So they capture Stearne, but Vincent Hopkins gets away.
That's right.
And he rides off. So then Hopkins, they're arresting him, and he manages to stab and kill the two Roundheads that arrested him, and he escapes. And so he's
then he wants revenge and then Stearne wants revenge on Hopkins.
Right. So then he's in a tavern drinking, and
then Ian Ogilvy shows up.
Yeah, and he doesn't know who the guy is at first. But as soon as he hears that he's the henchman of Hopkins, he does start a fight, and then they're knocking things over and jumping on tables and whatever, typical barroom brawl. Right. And then Ian Ogilvy's, he gets backed up against the bar, and the barman knocks him out. And the Stearne escapes, and then Ian Ogilvy gets up, and the barman's saying, "Well, I'm going to have to take you to the magistrate because you started a fight and stuff." So Ian Ogilvy punches the guy in the stomach, and he escapes, and he goes riding after
Stearne.
And there you see the chase in the fields and stuff, and then Stearne comes upon, he sees Hopkins, and he says, "Oh, come on, that guy, what's his name? Who he swore vengeance against us, Ian Ogilvy." So he takes him in the, and they lead him in the woods, and they hide as Ian Ogilvy rides past.
Because Stearne wanted to kill Hopkins, but Hopkins I think pulled a gun on him or something.
Right. And then
Stearne had been shot in that scene with the Roundheads, but apparently he ripped the bullet out and he survived it, or what. I don't know how, but
he had like a pick. He used this pick for poking people in the back to make them bleed. And
I guess he used it to pull the bullet out or whatever.
Yes, we used that to pull the bullet out. He's all angry at Price. So when he goes to kill Price, and Price pulls the gun on him, Hopkins, and
they settle. Okay, they decide.
Well, you escaped, so there it is. Don't worry about it. He says, "Yeah, but you left me." He says, "Well, we had to separate, otherwise we both would have been caught." And so they settle their stuff. He says, "I still need you to
help me get rid of this guy or whatever."
We're gonna have to. He said, "Well, Ian Ogilvy swore vengeance on us and is going to kill us." And he's like, "Well, let's use our powers and get him first and stuff." So they ride off to Lebanon, and
they find the girl.
He sees the girl, so then he uses her to
try to bring Ogilvy back or whatever. Ogilvy and these guys find out about it because some guy says, "Yeah, there's something going on in Lavendam, right?" or something like that.
Yeah.
So then some villager tells them, "Yeah, there's something going on. There's some witch stuff or whatever." So they haul ass over there, and Price is already got the girl torturing her, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then Ogilvy shows up. And he ends up getting stopped, and then Ogilvy gets, hung to the wall and he's watching his girlfriend get tortured or whatever, And
then Hopkins is saying, or Price is saying, "Confess to being a witch, and the torturing will stop." And Ian Ogilvy keeps saying, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." So. Because Ogilvy had ridden into town with his friends. His friends went to the tavern.
Right, they separated, yeah.
Ian Ogilvy went to find his girlfriend, and they were captured by Vincent Price, and he had some other people in the town help him. So, like you said, they took him to the castle to torture him. So now he's down there. They're torturing the girl. He and Ogilvy swearing to kill him and stuff. Then the Roundheads discover. In the town in Lebanon, they did kill a witch, or a woman who was claimed to be a witch, and her husband was like trying to.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah,
and,
he's the one who told them where it was. Yeah.
Right. So then after they captured Ogilvy and they're coming downstairs, the guy comes and he's gonna kill Price, and Price shoots him, and he falls down, and you think he's dead, but then the
soldiers show up and they
hear that there's some commotion going on, so they go running out.
That was it, yeah.
The dying guy tells them, he took your friend to the castle, so they go to the castle and they have to beat up several other Roundheads because they're guarding Vincent. Vincent Price told them to act as guards. So they defeat them. They go downstairs. One of them kills. As they took down Ian Ogilvy, Stearne, he breaks free and he ends up killing Stearne. And then
when they're tied up, she's on the table and they're like poking her or whatever.
Right.
And then the two guys are fighting their way in, and as they're fighting their way in, Ogilvy finds a way to get out of the.
Yeah, they got distracted, and then so he was able to like break his bonds or whatever.
And I think he like poked him in the eye or something like that with his foot. That
kicked him in the face. He did something. So Stearne's on the ground rolling around, like in agony, and then Ian Ogilvy takes an axe and he starts hacking Vincent Price to death, and the soldiers come in, and they go, "Oh my God, what the?" So they kill Vincent Price to put him out of his misery, and Ian Ogilvy's going,
He's mad. He's gone mad, yeah.
He's like, you took him from me. And then the girl is on the...
Screaming.
The thing, and she's screaming her head off, and then it's like, oh, the end.
Well, originally, from what I read here, I can see if I can find it. But anyway, from what I read here, the original idea, it wasn't the original idea, but one of the endings was that when the soldiers came in, they shot both Price and Ogilvy.
Ah.
But some production guy said, you know what, this soldier is using a specific gun which only has one shot.
Right. So
he can't shoot both of them. You can only shoot one. So Reeves said, okay, fine, just shoot Vincent Price, and then I'll have, even Ogilvy say, you killed him. I wanted to kill him, or whatever he said at the end. And then we'll just freeze frame with the girl screaming. So that's how it ended. But originally, the soldiers were going to kill both of them. So that would have been even more depressing ending.
Yeah, jeez.
Not a fun movie, but an interesting movie.
Yeah, it's funny how some people classify this as a horror movie. I guess because of the subject matter and what happens. But to me, it's like a more historical true crime or something.
Yeah, it does have elements of torture and gore and sadism and all the fun stuff that are in horror movies, but it's a little different than that. It's masquerading as a horror movie kind of, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a very good movie.
It says right here, the film's violent ending deviated from the script due to continuity problem. In the scene as written, Trooper Swallow was supposed to use both his and Harcourt's flintlock pistols to shoot both Hopkins and Richard dead. However, only Harcourt was depicted in the previous scene as carrying a pistol, and therefore only one person could be shot. When the plot hole was discovered, Reeves immediately told actor Nicky Hansen, "All right, just shoot Vincent, and I'll get in to scream and shout and go mad and freeze frame on Hilary Dwyer screaming." So that's what happened at the end of the movie.
Okay.
Here's the other thing that I was talking about. In one scene, this is how much Reeves hated Price, it seems like. In one scene, Reeves needed Price to shoot his flintlock between the ears of the horse he was riding. When Price realized that Reeves had ordered that an actual blank charge be used so that the weapon's puff of smoke would be visible, he shouted, "What? You want the gun to go bang between the ears of this fucking nag? How do you think he's going to react?" However, Reeves insisted, and then when the gun went off, the horse reared, sending Price onto the ground. Price was not hurt, but he was extremely angered by the incident. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet he was, you know what I mean? Let's see, what was the other? There's a lot of this stuff, that was going on. He said, on the final day of shooting, Price showed up on the set visibly intoxicated. Reeves said to Wadloff, one of the workers, one of the set guys there, one of the guys in the crew, "He's drunk. How dare he be drunk on my set? I'll kill the bastard." That's how much he hated him.
Wow.
Wadloff soon discovered that Reeves planned to fully inflict painful revenge on the actor. During the preparations for Price's violent death scene, the director was overheard instructing Ogilvy, "Really lay into Vincent with the stage acts." When the scene was filmed, Ogilvy responded with blows that were not faked, but Wadloff, the cast member, probably one of the guys that worked, one of the set guys, had fitted Price's costume with padding, protecting the actor from injury. So Reeves wanted him to be hurt. He was a real psycho, man. I don't know. There's something wrong with that guy. I mean, I don't know why he hated Vincent Price so much, let's see. There was a scene, according to a book called Nightmare Movies. Reeves made a suggestion on the set, and Price objected and told the director, "I've made 87 films. What have you done?" And Reeves responded, "I've made 3 good ones." Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God. This is some horrible stuff here, Let's see. What's the other one? There's some more horrible ones here. It says the production went relatively smoothly except for the unrelentingly antagonistic relationship that developed between Reeves and Price. Reeves told everyone associated with the production that the American actor was not his choice for the role, and the director's comments had reached the actor back in the U.S., so Price knew that he didn't want him. Reeves, the director, refused the courtesy of meeting Price at the airport when he arrived in England, a deliberate snub calculated to offend both Price and American International Pictures, which I guess put up money and changed the name of the movie. And then Price came, and when he got there, he said, "Take me to your goddamn young genius." Price reported, he said, producer, Philip Wadlow was the producer, who greeted the actor at the airport. When Price went on location and met Reeves for the first time, the young director told the actor, "I didn't want you, and I still don't want you, but I'm stuck with you." That's nice, huh?
Jeez Louise.
Man, it was like, I guess he figured he was going to ruin the film or something like that, I'm like, wow. I mean, I'm sure it angered Price a lot, Yeah. I mean, there's like, here's what was said about the script. After Reeves completed a third and final draft that was substantially toned down because of the censors, the version screenplay, which was further revised in production, was missing many of the more explicit moments of violence described in the first submitted drafts. The death spasms of the pre-credit hanging victim. She was going to be like spasming.
Oh, wow.
They didn't show that. Lowe getting stabbed 15 times with a steel spike, and a sniper victim somersaulting through the air into a tree. A sequence depicting the Battle of Naseby was to be filmed, during which a soldier's head was to be cut off on screen. Most significantly, the film's finale was completely altered. In the original ending, Stearne falls in with a group of gypsies and attempts to rape one of the women, who successfully fights off her attacker by plunging her thumbs into his eyes, blinding him.
Oh, my God.
The gypsies then stake him to death. Marshall arrives and convinces the gypsies to assist in ambushing Hopkins. Hopkins is viciously beaten by Marshall, who forces a confession out of the bloodied man. And so then Marshall basically throws Hopkins, whose thumbs have been tied to his feet. Then he throws him in the water and does so apparently it was a complete different ending. This ending is good. But apparently this is going to be a completely different, more sadistic, more violent movie.
Wow.
So, yeah, the Brits were weird because, well, not weird, that's just their...
Yeah.
Cause I remember when there was a book back in the 70s, it was called, I think it was called Encyclopedia of Horror by a Brit called Dennis Gifford. And in the book, he showed posters, British posters of these movies, but they always said Certificate X rating. I was like, wow, these movies were X rated over there. What the hell was in them? And it was just that they were very stringent with, they didn't want violence. They didn't mind the sexy stuff, but they just didn't want, you had to be over 16 or 17 to see any movie, even The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, rated X. I remember, what's that movie with Ronnie McDowell? He plays the young guy with the bowler hat. Oh, what the hell is it called?
Wow.
That was rated X.
Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell.
That was rated X here, too.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was rated X.
Probably because of the sex, not the violence.
Oh, both. Well, I remember it was rated X because I remember seeing the book at a store, and it was like, I started reading it, but it had a glossary in the back because of all the weird language that was invented. But, remember when you were in school back then, there was a thing, maybe it's still around, called a Scholastic Book Club?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you would get the pamphlet, you would get their everybody was given their catalog, copies of it, and you ordered books, So one of the books they were offering, I'm talking about, this was back in so long ago, it's not even funny, 72 or whatever. They were offering, maybe 72, they were offering Clockwork Orange novels.
Oh, really?
And a couple of kids ordered it, and when they came home and their parents said, what books did you get? And they showed Clockwork Orange. This was a Catholic school, so of course they did this. They called the school up and they raised a holy hell because you're letting my son read X-rated books. What the hell is going on there? And I guess I don't know if they stopped doing the Scholastic Book Club back then, but that was a big controversy. So yeah, it was an X-rated movie. I mean, I saw it in the theaters. There's like rape scenes and violent scenes and weird. You saw it too, didn't you?
Yeah, I seen it too.
I mean, it was a pretty sick movie in a lot of ways, and it had, of course, the obligatory 70s ending. This movie was 69. It had the obligatory 70s ending too. But like I said earlier, when he's hacking Price, it was like I was cheering and I was like, well, I don't feel good doing this because he's like, but he deserved it.
Yeah, it's weird when you see revenge stuff like that because on the one hand, I mean, Vincent Price is such a miserable,
horrible person.
Is such a miserable, terrible person. You want him to get his comeuppance, but at the same time, it's like, yeesh, what a way to...
Yeah, you feel good about him being hacked to pieces, whatever, Yeah. Another thing I read about this movie was it's like, one person's impression of it was, it felt like a Western with a revenge theme and all, not the witches per se, but the revenge theme and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. I didn't get that, but okay, I can see it, but anyway, AIP got the movie, they changed the title, and then they called The Conqueror Worm to try to tie in with the Edgar Allan Poe series.
Right.
And in the version that I remember seeing on TV, because I recorded this thing. I don't know if I have it anymore. It was on an old tape off Fright Night, New York, because we used to get WR, in Miami where I used to live. And I recorded it, and I remember that poem. That's not in this movie. Yeah,
it wasn't in the one I watched, but I remember they did that a couple of times in some of the movies where he had Vincent Price reciting elements of Poe and like caps on the beginning and end of movies. Yeah, they tried to. I mean, we watched one movie was supposedly based on Edgar Allan Poe or whatever, and it was more Lovecraftian. I can't remember what the hell the movie was.
It was. Was it The Haunted Palace? I don't know if the Haunted Palace was the one where it was supposedly based on Poe, but there were scenes of like there was these green gill men, and they were like in the castle, and they were getting women to they wanted to get women to mate with them or something like that. I think that was it was masquerading as a
I don't
movie.
think that's the one we watched, but there was another one too. It starred Price and I don't know. But I think back then, Poe was a bigger name than Lovecraft, so whatever.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Whatever weirdness they had, they, tried to make it. Poe.
I know that they did with Boris Karloff. They did Die Monster Die, and that was based on Lovecraft, but they didn't credit him at all. They had somebody rewrite it, and and that was not. Let me look at Vincent Price's filmography here. They did not. They didn't acknowledge Lovecraft, and that movie's been remade anyway. As it was originally Die Monster. That was originally The Color Out of Space.
Yeah, Color of Outer Space.
Let's see. Mask of the Red Death, no. Tomb of Lygia, no. War Gods of the Deep, no. Twice Told Tales, no. Finder General, no. Oh, I don't know which one it was. It wasn't Diary of a Madman. It wasn't The Raven. It wasn't Tower of London. It wasn't Tales of Terror. It wasn't Pit in the Pendulum. House of Usher. No, I don't know which one it was.
And maybe
it was. Did that.
Maybe it was Boris Karloff.
It might have been The Haunted Palace, because I know that one was. Let me see. Let me top in The Haunted Palace, because I know that one was really. That one had Lon Chaney in it and Price. It might have been The Haunted Palace. Let me see. Yeah, it's The Haunted Palace. Yeah, it's a 1963 film starring Vincent Price, Lon Chaney, and Deborah Paget. It's a story about a village held in the grips of a dead necromancer. The film was directed by Arch Horn, one of the series of 8 films, largely based on the work of Poe. Although marketed as Poe, The Haunted Palace is actually derives its plot from The Case of Charles Dexter Ward.
Yeah.
A novella by Lovecraft. This is the one. The film's title is derived from a 6-stanza poem by Poe. So they basically took the case of Charles Dexter Ward and added a Poe quote to it, and
just said it was, Poe.
Yeah, that's a good movie too. I think we did this movie. If not, we did it. But yeah, that was one of the earlier Poe movies or whatever. So, but yeah, and Lovecraft was only really known in there were Lovecraft adaptations. There was and it was a good one too. What was it? It was on Boris Karloff's Thriller, Pigeons from Hell. No, that was Robert E. Howard. That wasn't Robert. That wasn't Lovecraft.
That was Robert E. Howard. Yeah.
That was a good one. That was a great one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lovecraft. He didn't really get his due until later on, until the 70s.
Yeah, until the 70s. Well, that's when he became popular in the very late 60s and early 70s. Then it was a movie with it was the Dunwich Horror.
Dunwich Horror, that's right. That was with Sandra Dee and Dean Stockwell.
He was in
Dean Stockwell.
What's his name?
Dean Stockwell.
Yeah, Dean Stockwell. That's it. Man, I'm having a senior moment.
that was the infamous movie where I remember one night I fell asleep with the TV on and there was a creature feature going on and having these weird demonic dreams, and I woke up, that movie was on, and there was a scene where Sandra Dee was having weird demonic dreams, and I'm like, okay. But Witchfinder General, it seems like after that movie came out, they did Blood and Satan's Claw. They did this really disturbing movie by Ken Russell called The Devils. And I think they called this, and then The Wicker Man later on, and then Mark of the Devil. So it kind of was and then, I don't know, Rosemary's Baby was probably around. So there was a witchcraft demonic thing going on. And then, of course, The Exorcist came along in 73, and then there was a bunch of exorcists, movies or
And
whatever.
that's also when you had the Satanic Panic, where if you played records backwards,
yeah,
had devil messages.
yeah, the Zeppelin stuff or whatever.
Yeah, it's
Zeppelin
like
or
really
whatever.
weird.
And the Ouija board and all that shit. I had a Ouija board. I don't remember anything happening. I don't have it anymore, but I later learned that it was demonic, and I was like, oh, well, why the hell were they selling it to kids then? Parker Brothers were selling it. I was like, okay, whatever. So.
Well, I mean, millions of them were sold, so I don't know how. I think it's less demonic and more the people using it.
Yeah, more like what's in your brain or whatever,
Like
so.
I remember one thing about, I forget what happened. Some kid committed suicide, and
wasn't it like a song or something by?
Yeah, the parents claimed. I think it was Black Sabbath.
Oh, it's Judas Priest. They had a song I think called Suicide Solution.
The day before he did it, I mean, he was in his room playing that song 24 hours over and over again, not coming out, and it's like, well, you think maybe something else was going on?
Something was
other
wrong
than
with
just
him,
the
maybe?
song itself?
I mean, the song didn't help, but,
No, but, I mean, he latched onto it, but, I mean, he had...
mental problems. He had issues, yeah.
But that's it, they always want to go to the music or the
yeah, the easier blame.
Video games or whatever, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the music and the video games, they push the envelope of, whatever, but I wouldn't blame them completely. I mean, you got to have somebody who's kind of whacked.
Yeah, exactly.
To do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people just go like, oh, wow, that's a weird song, or, oh, wow.
Well, I feel weird after watching that. I gotta go.
I feel weird after watching that. Let me go and do whatever. They don't go and they do. They commit suicide or whatever. So
yeah.
I'm sure there was drugs involved. Maybe I don't know. But I remember Judas Priest, Bob Halford going to court.
Yeah.
And having to explain. Why is it that if you play this record backward, it says something or another. And I forgot what he said. He said we didn't do that. I don't know how that masking goes anyway, you know what I mean? Apparently, like, they could go in the record and put something on it, and if you played it backwards, I don't even, there's it started with all the Paul is dead stuff,
Yeah, and I did that with the album, number 9. If you do play it backwards, it doesn't quite say turn me on, it's more like, turn me on, Nevin.
Yeah.
Which you can kind of hear, oh, that's what it says. But, I mean...
Or it's not cranberry sauce. It's not I buried Paul. It's cranberry sauce or something.
Besides, who would think to play their record backwards?
No, if you look at some videos on YouTube, if you want, talk about Sgt. Pepper's, people were pretty clever in coming up with weird ideas as to like,
really?
Oh yeah, like Paul is the only one facing backwards, and then and the back cover, there's a scene where George is pointed up, and it says something like, he died at a certain time or whatever, the car crash or something, and then, on the cover you see like the old Beatles, like, I can't even go into it right now, but there's videos on YouTube where they go into the Sgt. Pepper album and they go and they find all these like quote unquote clues or whatever. You can figure it out. I'm sure there's some on BitChute too or whatever. You can find it for yourself. But yeah. And then on the Abbey Road record, there's a car that says the license plate says 27 if he hadn't died or whatever. And of course, why was Paul didn't have any shoes?
Yeah.
Because people were buried without shoes over there. And then on the video of Your Mother Should Know, why was Paul wearing a black rose? And the rest of them have red roses. I don't know. It's so much hooey or whatever. But it was invented. And I'm sure the Beatles played along with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's even like, here's another one. On the video of, that's on YouTube, on BitChute maybe, was a paperback writer. You see Paul playing and he's hiding his mouth because he had just been in a motorcycle accident and he had a busted tooth. Well, supposedly they turned that accident into a car crash, and he died, and then he was replaced by another guy that looks just like him, and blah blah blah, whatever. And there is a picture that I've seen of like Paul taken after the accident. His face is pretty hurt from whatever it was. I think it was a motorcycle thing, and it turned into an accident. And that's when they claim that, he died, and he was replaced by Billy Shears or some crap like that. I don't know. It was a lot of fun to back then, kind of a gruesome fun, but it was a lot of fun to find clues or whatever on albums and on covers, and the walrus, the walrus was Paul. What does that mean? And stuff like that. It was interesting, but
bits and you always heard bits and pieces of it, and then like a couple of months later, somebody else would tell you something new, and you'll go home and look at the album or play something backwards, or it's all like, oh, is this real? What's going? Back then, before the internet, and stuff. So
it was all you read articles about it.
Yeah, you read articles, or somebody read an article and then told you.
Or DJ might say something.
Yeah.
He goes, hey, if you play this at the end, this is I Barry Paul, but then somebody goes, no, it says cranberry sauce, and then, well, I mean, I know a guy who played the back of Revolution 9 backwards. He had a busted turntable, and you could hear some weird shit going on there. They even made a documentary about Paul is dead. And they said that the guy who replaced him, they called him Fall, fake Paul or whatever. I mean, as a matter of fact, I remember when I was a kid, my dad knew I was a big Beatle fan. He actually he had a copy of a Life magazine where some journalist went to Paul's Scottish farm and to interview him. Hey, could you prove to me that you're not dead or whatever? And he was on the cover. It was a black and white cover, and I had it. I don't have it anymore, but it was an interview that originally Paul was going to beat the shit out of the guy, because apparently the guy found out where he lived and he showed up uninvited, and McCartney was really angry about it. And I guess they made peace, and the guy was like, look, I don't want to fight with you. I just want to take a picture of you to prove to people that you're
not dead.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're going on a Beatles jag or whatever.
Well, we always do. We always end up...
I'll stop with this one, which I found very interesting, which I did not know. I always wondered why, when McCartney broke up with the Beatles and they put out records, why it was credited to Paul and Linda. I go, what could she have done? Should she write lyrics? Did she play? She wasn't a good musician or anything like that. I found out.
Listening on the Howard Stern show, they isolated her singing, and she sung way out of tune.
Yeah, totally. You know why she was credited on those?
Why?
To get more money. Because because he was still contracted to Northern songs, and if it was just him, he would get X amount. But if it was him and her, they would get more money.
Oh, okay.
And then Northern songs, they sued Paul. They said, why is she being listed? She can't play. She can't whatever. And then Paul McCartney won the case because he said, hey, I can collaborate with whoever the hell I want. You know? So it was and did you know that when the Beatles, when they were still together, and I guess they restructured their contract or whatever, Paul cut a deal without them knowing that he was going to get a bigger percentage of the royalties. And when they found out at the end, they got real pissed off at him. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Interesting stuff comes out, but...
Jeez.
But Ringo's okay. He was never involved in any of that.
Yeah, I get the feeling, like you said in another show, George was mainly ignored and overlooked.
Pretty much.
And Ringo just went in and did his drumming, and whatever was needed, he did it. get involved. That
George
that I've ever heard of.
George was overlooked by not John and Paul, but also George Martin.
Yeah.
You know, the producer didn't. He would do whatever he had to, but he would spend most of his time, prettying up the Lennon and McCartney songs because they were the big. But then until Abbey Road and When Something came out, that became their big hit. You know, so then they decided, hey, maybe George is onto something here, and then they broke up.
Yeah.
But contrary to popular belief, that Abbey Road was supposed to be the last album, a guy called Mark Lewison discovered a clip. He was only allowed of an interview of a meeting that the Beatles had after Abbey Road, which he only was able to release a clip of it. I heard it, but I don't remember it. But anyway, they were discussing doing another album. Really? But then Paul, broke up the band he quit. So that was the end of that. But apparently they were discussing doing another album, and apparently Lennon was like, look, I don't want to do any Maxwell Silverhammer crap anymore. And I think the interview even said, the article even said that Lennon was like, why don't we stop with the Lennon and McCartney? I'll credit my songs, you credit your songs. I'll do 4. Lennon said, Paul, you can do 4. George will do 4 and give a couple to Ringo. Yeah. They actually discussed that, and then they broke up because a lot of reasons. Personal, money, whatever,
They weren't, for the amount of influence they had on the music scene, they were only together, 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Like that? But, it felt longer because even after they broke up, you still heard all of their songs.
You still hear them.
And they had such a big influence on everybody else.
Oh, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that doesn't like the Beatles doesn't realize that the Beatles influenced everybody. Yeah. Even bands that don't sound like the Beatles were influenced by the Beatles. Even Black Sabbath was influenced by the Beatles. Yeah. Whether they like it or not. People say, well, there's bands that were around before them and they were playing bars and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, there wasn't that many bands around where they all wrote their own songs and produced them and did all this stuff until they came along. There was a few, Buddy Holly, but it was always Buddy Holly and the Crickets. It wasn't the Beatles. It was, there wasn't that many bands where everybody sang. Right. It was a unique thing or whatever. So
yeah, and like when Sgt. Pepper came out, it was such a different album from what you heard. Now it sounds kind of like, well, all right, so
it sounds like a record from a psychedelic record from that era. Yeah.
But the first time it was like groundbreaking.
The first time on the radio, some guy, I'm talking like in 7. I was a little kid. It was during the summer, I think. And the guy goes, hey, we got the new Beatles song, and here it comes. And all of a sudden I hear Strawberry Fields Forever. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I know, right?
What? This is the Beatles? I thought it was like, whatever. But then if you listen to the record before, the last song was Tomorrow Never Knows, and that's all weirdness too, Yeah. So, that was the beginning of all the weird stuff, which was great. But anyway, that was a great time. That was Clockwork Worm, Witchfinder General was made around that time. All the Poe Price movies. It was a golden era, which lasted through the early 70s, I believe.
Yep. Yeah.
And then it kind of died out in the mid to late 70s, and it became post-punk, post-punk, new wave, which was okay. And it had its innovations. I'm not going to put it down. They had a lot more than today. Damn sure.
Oh God, yeah. Today was auto-tune. Well, everything's corporate, so they want a certain guarantee style so that they can guarantee their money. Everything's auto-tuned. All the songs are pretty much the same. It's like.
And there's probably good bands out there, but where are you going to hear them?
Yeah.
The reality is that even if there are good bands out there, they're not going to be able to do much new because I think a lot of it's already been done already. You know what I mean? They're just a lot of these bands, which are quote unquote good bands that have good songs, and they might have good songs. You listen to them and I go, yeah, that's good, but sounds a little bit like Beatles, Rolling Stones, Kinks.
Exactly.
Like a band like Oasis or something like that. Yeah, some of their songs are good, but I think the word is derivative, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, what are you going to do? If you're a musician and you want to play, those are your influences. That's just what happens, I guess the main thing is to write a good song.
Yeah, write a good song and...
see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. And write a song for you, not to try to hit a certain audience or... But
but honestly, the Beatles wrote songs for their audiences. I mean, at the beginning anyway. They wrote songs for kids, and then they changed after a while because it was kind of like, okay, we did that already. Now what?
They got into the music more and.
And drugs.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah, a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
But the '60s was a great time, and this movie is really about the end of the '60s in a way. This is not a flower power movie at all. This is a kind of a downer, rough. This movie is almost like it kind of like. It's kind of like sets you up for like the '70s and all the downer movies of that were coming in the future or whatever. So, but it's a good one. And
it is a good movie. It's not the horror movie you would think it is, even though they call it a horror movie.
There's a lot of horror in it, but it's not, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's real life human.
Horror. Yeah.
So, but anyway, So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another movie. I don't know if you can find a better one, but well, we enjoy the bad ones too. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're B movies.
I don't think this was a B movie. I'm not going to call this a B movie, but I mean, it doesn't have a big budget though. But this was a little bit better.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
It was marketed as a B movie because it was marketed to drive-ins and so in that sense, yes, it's a B movie.
Yeah, well, like Creature of the Black Lagoon, that's a B movie, but that's a great movie.
But that's a big budget, well-made movie or whatever. You know what I mean?
It's still,
that's another question for another show. What is a B movie? I mean, B movie to me is something cheap and made to like under like an hour, like Attack of the Giant Leeches. That's a B movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the some of the Poe movies, they had big budgets in them. I mean, maybe the subject matter was like, not highbrow, but I don't know. And then of course there's.
To me, that's a B movie. At least my definition is. It's more like who the audience is and what they're trying to achieve.
It's not made for highbrow purposes, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
It's just an entertainment movie, and it's got horror and it's got fantastic elements to it. I guess you feel it's a B movie. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah. It's like going to the amusement park. You don't go for.
Would you consider like Alien a B movie? It's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie.
It's got exploitation elements in it, but it's a big budget and it's really
budget. That was really pushed by the studio. There may be a separate category of movie we may have to.
Yeah, like I say, it's not a B movie, but the script feels like a movie that could have been a B movie.
It could have been. I mean, if you had a rubber monster.
If you had like half the money and like actors that weren't of that whatever, maybe it would have been. If the hands of Roger Corman, it would have been a B movie. In the hands of Ridley Scott, it was better than that.
Yeah. Maybe you had Barbara Steele play the lead role. And,
I would have loved that. I mean, Sigourney Weaver was great, but I would have loved Barbara Steele to play the lead role. Oh my God, I would have been all over that.
And you had a rubber.
Okay, here you go. And it's not because of the budget. And Jaws, that sure feels like a B movie to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it, but it's not a B movie, but it feels like it.
It feels like. Again, if in the hands of Roger Corman,
it's a B movie.
It's a B movie.
In the hands of Spielberg, it's not a B movie. And that's not to say that Roger Corman isn't an excellent director. He is, but it's just a different mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just
Roger Corman just had to make a buck.
Same thing with Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Those are B movies.
Those are B movies, but in the hands of great directors.
And big budgets.
Yeah, and big budgets.
Yeah, and big studio backing.
Yeah.
And big directors. Anyway, that's a whole other subject for a whole different show. All right, well, anyway, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with some more B, or whatever you want to call them, movies. Some of them called Z movies, Some of them are like bottom of the barrel garbage, which we love too. So, anyway, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. And now, Roddy, take us out.
Watch more B movies!
That night her kiss told me it was over. I walked out late into the dark. The misty gloom seemed to soak up my sorrow. The further I went on, I felt a spreading calm. Then suddenly my eyes were bathed in light, and the lovely lady in white was by my side. She said, like me I see you're walking alone. Won't you please stay? I couldn't look away. Yes, I'm gonna go, 'cause now